beginning with song this morning. So please, if you're with us, join in singing.
Welcome to this special online service in the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. Our mission here is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Bradley Convis, and I'm grateful to serve as a worship associate for this congregation. While we cannot be together in body today, we are grateful to be together in spirit. We gather in this virtual space. It's not the same thing as being together with each other physically, but that's what we have for now. We hope that you'll find this time comforting, inspiring, and healing. If you'd like to submit a joy or sorrow this morning, please do so by going to our website, www.sunnyhill.org. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on Submit Joys and Concerns, under the Take Action heading. And please keep in mind that these joys and sorrows will be shared with everyone who is watching or listening online. Also, later in our service, there will be a designated offering that will go toward the minister's discretionary fund, specifically to support Sunnyhill members and friends affected by the COVID-19 virus. You can give by sending a text to 412-324-3130. From there, you'll be connected to our online giving system, which will walk you through several quick steps to make a gift. That number again to text is 412-324-3130. Or you can mail a check to the church with COVID-19 in the memo line. Our opening words today were written by Monica Jacobson Tennyson. We gather today at the beginning of a time of distancing, knowing that we are called to do new things in the service of all, knowing that this change is an expression of our love, knowing that we will learn to gather at a distance. In the times to come, we will kindle separate flames, yet the flame is the same each time. And all our separate flames remind us of this community and our shared life. Please join me for saying the words and lighting our chalice. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with the courage of our deepest convictions.
Inclusion and peace.
And stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames we rise.
Good morning. Each month we have a board member that shares what's going on with our Sunnyhill board at this time. And today we have with us board member Nathan Chaffin, who's going to talk a little bit about Sunnyhill's response to the COVID-19 outbreak.
Good morning, everyone. As Jim said, my name is Nathan Chaffin, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at Sunnyhill. On Tuesday night, merely 4 or 5 days ago, I was asked to give this Sunday's board minute with the topic being COVID-19 and what we, the board, Reverend Jim and the staff are doing to keep members, friends, and our greater community safe. On Tuesday night, we had a lengthy discussion about what-if plans and what it would take to trigger the implementation of these contingency plans. In terms of the evolution of COVID-19 here in the United States, Tuesday evening seems like an eternity ago. Since then, schools have closed, cultural events have been canceled, sports leagues have been ended, seasons have been ended, and we here at Sunnyhill have implemented similar changes in the name of safety and responsibility. As you are well aware, if you're watching this online, we've decided to cancel all in-person services and religious education. This is in keeping with the message from the UUA, strongly urging all congregations to cancel meetings of 25 people or more. Until further notice, all Sunday services in person are canceled. For further details on other group or team meetings, please see our website. We feel that this policy is the optimum balance between meeting the needs of members and public safety. In the meantime, and I know you've heard this before, but I'll repeat it, please do what you can to avoid getting the virus. Simple things like hand washing, social distancing, that is staying at least 6 feet away from people, being mindful of how you cough, right? Into the elbow. And minimizing touching your face are good practices. Many of you have seen the graphic that I'm getting ready to show, but I ask you to bear with me if you have, because I can guarantee there are some that haven't. So if we could put that up. There are still naysayers out there who say that it's not really going to be that big of a deal. But in my opinion, the biggest part of it being a big deal has to do with the healthcare system capacity. So you'll see in the red curve, that represents how the transition and the spread of the virus might go if we aren't careful. We would have a very sharp build in the population that have it, and you can see that it surpasses that dashed line which marks our healthcare system capacity. If we are to be responsible and spread this out more over time, it's more likely to be like the green curve, that hopefully will be under our healthcare system capacity, and thus we can handle it more effectively. On a personal note, when I think about this, and I'll ask you to think of the same thing for your family and your life, I think of my mother and my mother-in-law. If they were to come down with this and need to go to the hospital, it's very likely that there would not be enough ventilators or equipment to serve them properly. So the odds of them dying, and I don't mean to be morose, but I do want to be realistic, are higher. And that should be the motivation here, to look out for those that are elderly or immunodeficient. In closing, please understand that the board, Reverend Jim, and the staff are of the opinion that nothing we do here, while very important, is worth getting sick for, or risking your life, or the lives of others. For the older Sunnyhill members and those that are immunodeficient, the situation is very serious and very real. Please think of them when you consider how you will behave during this pandemic. After all, this is a congregation built on love, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Thank you for your time, and be safe.
The group that we're about to hear, the Cadenza Trio, is comprised of 3 young musicians, Layla Fanian on violin, Emma Kim on piano, and Sunnyhill's own Sophie Malloy on cello. They were scheduled to perform yesterday in the Young Artist Competition sponsored by the Pittsburgh Concert Society. Unfortunately, that event was canceled for the first time in 77 years, as I understand it. So the girls were unable to play the pieces that they've been practicing for months. Fortunately for all of us, they'll be playing those pieces for us this morning. Here now is the Cadenza Trio. Join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Remember to breathe always. Take a moment simply to sense breath coming in and breath going out. When you are struggling, breathe. When you are celebrating, breathe. When you are trying something new, breathe. When you are facing the same old challenges, breathe. When life is good, breathe. When everything comes unglued, breathe. Sitting wherever you are right now, connected to people who care, breathe. In the silence of this moment, breathe. Breathe in the peace of this place and this moment. Breathe out the love that longs to be unloosed in our world. May we remember and return to this place of openness and breathing throughout all the moments of our lives. Amen. As Brad mentioned earlier, our designated offering this morning will go toward the minister's discretionary fund, specifically to support Sunnyhill members and friends who may be affected by the COVID-19 virus. You can give online by sending a text to this number, 412-324-3130. From there, you'll be connected with our online giving system, which will walk you through several quick, easy steps to make a gift. That number again is 412-324-3130, or you can mail a check to the church with COVID-19 in the memo line. And we thank you for your generous support. Here once again is the cadenza trio. Last week in the suburb of Sydney, Australia, a fight broke out over toilet paper. As reported in Business Insider magazine, 3 women resorted to screaming and hair pulling after one of them filled her cart with packets of toilet paper at a local Woolworths store. According to a video of the fight published by 9 News Australia, a woman asked for just 1 packet from a second woman who had filled her cart with at least 4 large packets of toilet paper. "No, not 1 packet," said the second woman. A third woman then joined in the fray, and the 3 ended up fighting physically as others in the supermarket tried to separate them. New South Wales acting police officer, Inspector Andrew New, later said, according to The Guardian, "We just ask that people don't panic like this when they go out shopping. There is no need for it. It isn't the Thunderdome. It isn't Mad Max. We don't need to do that." Unfortunately, similar scuffles have occurred in recent days elsewhere around the world, including here in the U.S. At a Costco store in Chino Hills, California, a large group of customers turned rowdy after finding that toilet paper, paper towels, and water had gone out of stock last Thursday morning, the Los Angeles Times reported. The situation apparently got so bad that San Bernardino County deputies were dispatched to the store. Other household items, like cleaning supplies and hand sanitizers, have also been sold out, the LA Times reported. Chains such as Costco and Walmart have been running out of essentials due to panic buying. If you've been to a Costco or a Walmart or any supermarket recently, you've probably encountered similar scenes where toilet paper, bottled water, and hand sanitizer have been scarfed up by the carload by panicked shoppers, leaving nothing but empty shelves. The cause of all this panic buying, of course, is the worldwide outbreak of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, which has been declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. The odd thing is that there is no direct relationship between the virus and toilet paper. There's nothing about having the coronavirus that would necessitate using more toilet paper. So what is it that's actually driving all of this crazed buying, hoarding, and fighting over toilet paper? Stephen Taylor, a clinical psychologist and author of The Psychology of Pandemics, told CNN that people are triggered to panic buy if the scale of the threat, such as a global epidemic, doesn't seem to match up to the simplicity of the best deterrent, like hand washing. In other words, it's really hard for people to accept that all they can do is follow the recommendations of health experts in terms of social distancing, hand washing, and safe coughing and nose blowing habits. They want to do something more active that at least gives them the illusion of having some control over the situation. And after just one person starts panic buying, others follow suit. Frank Farley, a professor at Temple University, told CNN it was natural for people to over-prepare as the coronavirus engenders a sort of survivalist psychology. Meanwhile, Professor Baruch Fischoff at Pittsburgh's Carnegie Mellon University said it was down to a lack of clear direction from authorities, CNN reported. So in the absence of clear, consistent, non-contradictory information from our political leaders, we resort to dysfunctional behaviors such as panic buying. Andy Yap and Charlene Chen, professors at NCA Business School in Singapore, conducted a series of studies indicating that people are motivated to buy utilitarian, practical goods in situations where they don't feel like they have much control over outside circumstances, like the coronavirus. The rush for toilet paper and other necessities in the face of COVID-19 is a natural behavioral response to the loss of psychological control, Professor Yap said. Please believe me when I tell you that when I went into ministry, I never envisioned myself spending this much time in the pulpit talking about toilet paper. But such is life in our current era, what future historians may call the era of Trump and toilet paper. I'm not here to judge anyone this morning. If you were among the mass buyers of toilet paper this week, you are not the only one. There are others of us in this very room. In fact, there are 2 cases of toilet paper sitting in our basement that we ordered this week after the panic buying began. Nonetheless, I think it's fair to say that buying huge amounts of toilet paper is not the best or most appropriate response to the coronavirus. But if panic buying is not the appropriate response, what is? According to the Centers for Disease Control, it's pretty simple. As Nathan outlined earlier, cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you cough or sneeze or use the inside of your elbow. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Put distance between yourself and other people in the community if COVID-19 is spreading. And stay at home if you are sick, except to get medical care. And I'm going to repeat that last one. Stay at home if you are sick. Even if it's not the coronavirus, spreading cold and flu germs will only make things worse. Those are the basics. If everyone followed those simple pieces of advice, rather than tearing each other's hair out over toilet paper, then we would have a good chance of slowing down the spread of the virus enough that it could be adequately addressed without overburdening our healthcare system. The fact is that any time we as a people face a crisis or disaster of any kind, we have choices. We can choose fear-based responses, or we can choose responses based in reason and in mutual love and support. In an article published in the New York Times a few days ago, author John Mooallem wrote about the response to the Great Alaska Earthquake of 1964, a quake that measured 9.2 on the Richter scale and reduced much of downtown Anchorage, Alaska, to rubble and ruin. According to Mooallem, in 1964, at the height of the Cold War and the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. government had locked on to natural disasters as realistic proxies for Armageddon. Each community hit by an earthquake, hurricane, or flood was like a laboratory, a full-scale simulation in which a team of sociologists could scrutinize such a breakdown of society. Writing about civilian responses to disasters, Richard M. Titmuss, a social scientist of that era, stated large-scale disasters would lead to a mass outbreak of hysterical neurosis among the civilian population. Titmuss said that citizens would behave like frightened and unsatisfied children. But, as Mooallem writes, when the disaster researchers started touching down in Anchorage a mere 28 hours after the earthquake, they almost immediately began discovering the opposite. The community was meeting the situation with a staggering amount of collaboration and compassion. Llewellyn goes on. Right after the shaking stopped, ordinary citizens began crawling through the ruins downtown, searching for survivors and using ropes to heave people out of the debris. When Presbyterian Hospital started filling with gas after the quake, Boy Scouts who'd been distributing phone books in the neighborhood helped walk the hospital's 22 patients down 3 or 4 flights of stairs, and an armada of taxis and other civilian drivers pulled up outside to evacuate everyone to a second hospital across town. He writes, outside the crumbling J.C. Penney, bystanders rushed to dig people out and worked together to tow away a huge section of the fallen concrete facade with their vehicles, then extract a woman who'd been trapped beneath it in her station wagon. Everybody jumped right in, one man said, who'd been on the scene. Everybody was trying to do a little bit of everything for everybody else. Llewellyn continues, by daybreak the following morning, hundreds of volunteers had spontaneously converged on the city's combined police and fire station, similarly eager to pitch in. No one in the city government had anticipated this onrush or put any system in place to manage it. The conventional wisdom was that in a disaster, authorities had to worry about hordes of civilians chaotically fleeing the hardest hit area. Here, everyone was piling in to help. Researchers came to Alaska after the earthquake, fully expecting to find looting, violence, and other antisocial behaviors on full display. But none of those behaviors materialized in any major way. Instead, they found people coming together in ways that did not happen every day. As Llewellyn writes, something surprising had been shaken loose in Anchorage, a dormant capacity, even an impulse, for people to come together and care for one another that felt largely inaccessible in ordinary life. What we are now facing in the form of the coronavirus is a disaster that is different from an earthquake in many ways. There are no fallen buildings or people trapped beneath the ruins of their homes. But our response can and should be guided by the same impulse to come together and care for one another that was evident in the aftermath of the great Alaska earthquake of 1964. John Llewellyn puts it this way: washing your hands, staying home when you're sick, limiting travel, keeping yourself healthy, not touching your face. Little of what we're being told to do feels particularly heroic or world-changing, or nearly enough to satisfy an anxious mind. But for a lot of us, it is, in fact, the job that's in front of us right now. The role that these disordered circumstances are calling each of us, at a minimum, to play. There are and will be more situations where helping more directly becomes possible and necessary, especially if we're not getting coherent leadership or even honesty from those in charge. But we can't afford to feel that canceling a school band concert or a church gathering or suspending a basketball season is a withering retreat. We must see them as parts of an empowered, collaborative undertaking. Llewellyn concludes by saying, we are coming together to keep our distance. If we want to stop our world from shaking, we need to find in even the tiniest of these acts the same meaning and immediacy, the same togetherness and purpose that the people of Alaska felt as they worked together to rebuild their towns and homes after the earthquake. For now, as you know, we have had to cancel, postpone, or restructure and reimagine most of our programs and events here at Sunnyhill, including Sunday morning services. These changes will be inconvenient, annoying, and at times frustrating. It will be a challenge to continue to feel connected to one another, though we will do everything we can to remain connected even from a distance. We need to keep in mind that these distancing measures are, in fact, the most compassionate response we might have to our current circumstances, and that these measures may save lives. It is perhaps ironic, but nonetheless true, that the best way of coming together right now might be by staying apart. Whatever the next few weeks and months have in store for us, I hope and pray that our actions will be driven not by fear and panic, but by the impulse to care for one another in whatever way we can. For it is only by basing our actions in love and compassion that we might have any hope of bringing into being the kind of world that we long to have for ourselves, for our children, and for all who call the earth their home. May it be so. Amen.
Please join again in singing as you're able.
Join me now for the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'm going to close with these words before we hear from our string trio one more time. May we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health or making their rent. May we who have the flexibility to care for our children when their schools close remember those who have no options. May we who have had to cancel our trips remember those who have no place to go. May we who are losing our margin money in the tumult of the economic market remember those who have no margin at all. May we who settle in for quarantine at home remember those who have no home. During this time when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us yet find ways to embody the warm embrace of love for ourselves, for our friends and families, and for all our neighbors, wherever they might be. just want to thank our musicians again this morning. On violin, Layla Fannion. On cello, Sophie Malloy, and on piano, Emma Karen. Thank you so much for being with us today. And to everyone, I say, go in peace or stay in peace until we gather together again.